Good morning. What a beautiful handful we have this morning. Look around at this lovely bunch of people. You're all just so glowing this morning. Welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Mary Marie Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here. Ooh, I'm getting so rich sounding now. I love that. Thank you, Dana. That was nice. Although I'm getting a little something weird too happening. There's some kind of high-pitched something happening also. Yeah. I don't know what that is. It's coming from over here though, so is it coming from both speakers? Okay, I'm picking it up on this one. And especially for those of you that are online also, good morning. Welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. We're delighted you're here as well. You're looking very lovely this morning yourselves. So, as we are a welcoming group, one of the first things we do in the morning on our Sundays is welcome each other. So I'm going to invite you now to go ahead and stand up, walk around, and say good morning to everybody. Introduce yourselves to anybody you don't know. Welcome people back, and just generally enjoy saying hi to each other. And those of you online, give yourselves a hug. Go pour yourself another cup of coffee. Take a little jog around your house. And in just a moment, we'll be back to sing. So hang in there with us. Good morning, Julie. All right, that's great. Now that we've made everybody welcome, we're going to stand up and sing. And we have a variety of music this morning, but from one particular artist. So Lisa Ferraro, who I understand from Frank has actually been here at some time in the far distant past. It's her music that we've got this morning, but Lisa Ferraro also has a music writing partner named Natalia Zuckerman. And there are two songs this morning that they're going to be doing together. One of them, you'll see them both on screen. The other one is a video that's been made for the lyrics of the song. So you won't see them. But we're starting off this morning just with Lisa. And Lisa grew up in Pittsburgh in a jazz tradition. And so she's worked with a lot of the homegrown jazz musicians that are well known. She lives in Columbus, Ohio. She's a vocal coach, a meditation leader, a retreat facilitator, and of course, a songwriter. And she has an online inspirational platform called Soul Call Sunday. And she and Natalia have just started a regular duo where they show up and do things various places called Seek Her 7. So you might, it's all one word kind of, so you might look for that online. But right now, let's stand and sing with Lisa. Whoops. Song we've sung before.
We are one in the Spirit of God. Good morning, everyone. We are one in the Spirit of God. We are one in the Spirit of God. We are one, we are one, we are one, we are one. We are one in the Spirit of God. We are one in the Spirit of God.
Hand, very nice. You may be seated. And this is a time to go ahead and silence your cell phone so that it won't interrupt us at all during the service this morning. We want your full attention to be on the messages happening here. And so as we begin, we're going to take this time to turn within and get centered as a group. And I'm going to invite our morning practitioner, Reverend Judith Fleener, up to do that part for us.
Centering in the Spirit of God, the one, the eternal, the everlasting, the light, the power, the good, the joy, the chaos, the delight. This one infinite power is the energy of all creation. Therefore, it is the energy of my very being. And so remembering that I am one with the power, the presence, the creative energy, the thoughts of God, I remember that my thoughts are creative. And just as the one known as Jesus the Christ changed water into wine and made fishes turn into a multitude of food to feed the millions, I have that same power when I remember that my thoughts are creative. And as I have that power, so does everyone within the realm of the divine, which is everyone, always, everywhere. And so in this space, I just declare that during this service today, we are reminded to be mindful with our thoughts, to be mindful of the thoughts and emotions that drive the energy of the divine and allow form to be created. That we take a moment in this time together to look at all that we have created in our lives and know that at any moment we can choose to shift any condition in which we are living and change our reaction to conditions which change our experience. And so in this place of knowing this oneness, I claim also for this service today that each and every person leaves with a heart feeling uplifted, feels that they have returned to their center of who they truly are. I claim a shift in consciousness, allowing people to feel connected, not only to the divine, but to each other and to the world. And in this knowingness, I know there is nothing left to do, for when one speaks their word, then action is started. And all there is left to do is to say thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, beloved. Thank you, the law of activity and creation. Thank you for the life that I am living, for the newness constantly unfolding, for healing that is being taken place, and for joy being returned to the heart as we remember who we are. And so in this space, there is nothing left to do but to say, thank you, God, let it be, and so it is.
When I see you, I can see your heart. Who would look away as the echo of a prayer return? Returning, 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 return.
The echo of a prayer returns. It's nice to know that that prayer energy, the vibration that we send out into the world, doesn't just dissipate and disappear or travel into the law or the heart of God and then it's done. But that vibration continues. Just as our heartbeat can be measured outside of the body because the vibration is being communicated outward from us, it continues on in more and more subtle levels. And so do our thoughts, which also have vibration even more subtly. But they don't stay in our heads. They continue. They move. They exist in some subtle form everywhere all the time. When we are coming into this new year, we're claiming a grand rising as our theme for this year. Now, this is a phrase, a grand rising, that is used in some of the African American communities as an alternative way of saying good morning. A grand rising. It's like, greeting you with a wish for your highest good in this moment, a grand rising to take place. And so that's our theme for this year. And in this month of January, because I am revisiting in some form the basic principles of our teaching, I'm calling it In the Beginning. So if we look at the beginning, whatever the beginning is, apparently our universe has a beginning. We refer to it as the Big Bang, but that doesn't mean that was the beginning of us, or the beginning of form existing, or the beginning of the infinite. Perhaps all those things have been around in various forms and ways for a long time, and this is just the latest iteration. I don't know. But in the beginning of what we can imagine, you might say that the form that comes into being out of the formless does so because that presence of infinite intelligence has a natural tendency to contemplate what is possible and then bring it forward into being. Not everything that occurs to the divine shows up in form at the same time. That would be chaotic. But we all have shown up, and we too operate in that way where what we are focused on and believing and ruminating about tends to then come forward into form and experience. We're, in a sense, co-creators with that divine presence. And what happens sometimes is that we don't understand why something is showing up, either good or bad, in our experience. Where did that come from? I was talking about last week, where did that come from? And today, we're asking the question, how did that happen? Or last week was, whose idea was this, right? For positive or negative, the larger idea, the first cause, the originating mind is the infinite. But all of us are participating in that. So when we look at Simone Biles, who has won countless awards in the Olympics and everywhere else for the amazing acrobatic talent and capacity she has, she may have been born with native talent, but she had to do something with it. She had to put it into practice in order to be able to go where she went, to become what she did. So although there was some maybe native gift that she had, at the same time, bringing it to this, how that happened directly involved her. Sometimes things show up in our lives and we feel like victims. Like, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. That just happened to me. That wasn't fair. Or even something really marvelous and wonderful that happens to us, we might think, well, I didn't really deserve that. I didn't earn that. That just came out of the blue. Or I don't know what I'm receiving acknowledgement about this for, because this is easy for me. I don't have to work at this. Anybody relate to either of those things? Like, why is this awful thing happening? Or I'm kind of embarrassed that this wonderful thing is happening. Anybody have either of those experiences? Okay. So this story you may have heard from me before, but it's a good one. A woman who's very meticulous in her housekeeping often has to remind her husband about tracking things into the house. And one day he comes in to find her furiously scrubbing a spot on the floor and launching into a lecture. And she says to him, you know, I don't know what you've brought in now, but I can't seem to get this off the floor. And her husband just kind of quietly studies the situation for a moment. And then he goes over to the windowsill where a lot of sunlight is streaming in, and he just moves a figurine sitting on the windowsill, and the spot miraculously disappears. This is the kind of thing where there is a reason why something's happening. There is a cause for it. We may feel victimized by that because we don't understand what brought it into our experience. And yet, so we're trying to attack this problem without understanding where it came from or what it is, and using the wrong tools to do it. And then we get frustrated because it isn't changing. It isn't resolving. It isn't disappearing. Anybody have that experience in your life? It may be, when that's happening to us, that we actually don't understand what it is, where it came from, why it's there, and how to approach it. So I want to talk a little bit today about the creative law of the universe and the way that it works. So the way that it works is, at least in part, through us, individually and collectively. So we create in both ways. And what it means, too, is that our founder, Ernest Holmes, used to say, there is a law for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. What he didn't say, which I like to tack on to the end, is, and you can't not use it, because it is using you. The only thing that we can do in that constant process of creation that is using us is to pay attention to what we're feeling strongly about, what we're believing, what we're thinking about, what we're speaking about, the action that we're taking, because those things are being acted upon by the law to bring forward more of that. So we find ourselves a little bit like at the very beginning of the first book of Harry Potter. How many of you ever read Harry Potter? Anybody? Okay, this side of the room more than that side. I've got another example for you in just a minute. At the beginning of the book, he gets introduced to the idea that he's a wizard. And he thinks it's got to be a mistake. I couldn't possibly be a wizard. What are you talking about? And another character says to him, never made anything happen when you were angry or upset? And he thinks of all the weird things that have happened in his life that he's gotten in trouble for, and they always happen when he is angry or upset or scared. And so it dawns on him that maybe there's something to this idea, that he has this power that he didn't know about. Well, if you ever saw Fantasia, you saw the section on The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where Mickey Mouse decides to take on the sorcerer's power without actually knowing what he's doing. And he immediately tells the mop, to clean and mop the floor and everything. And it becomes a disaster because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know that what he has done has caused the result that he's experiencing. So when we have desires, When we have fears and things that we're worried about or upset about, when we have feelings about those things, and when we have strong opinions, and you'll notice that often strong opinions are accompanied by strong feelings. We don't tend to have strong opinions with no feeling behind them. There's usually some energy emotionally. Would you agree? So when we're in any of these modes, we are in a creative mode, whether we realize it or not, because we can't not use the creative law. It is operating through us all the time, which means that we may be creating something we didn't intend to create, we don't understand how we did it, and we either didn't particularly want that, or it embarrasses us because it's better than what we thought we had going on or deserved. You with me so far here? All right, so Todd Michael said, ideas are the impulses that make things happen. Every invention, creation, and work of art, and every miracle begins as an idea. And the words are the agents that channel the force of miraculous ideas into the world. So at each level where we solidify the vibration of the idea more, we're getting closer to the thing showing up in form. If we think about it, that's one level. If we speak about it, that's another level. If we write about it, that's another level. If we're doing all of those things a lot with feeling, we're getting right close to showing that thing in our experience in the world. Others may experience it too, if a lot of people are doing what we're doing. Or it may be something that only we are experiencing. And all of it goes back to what's happening inside of us. Byron Katie said once, I don't change my thoughts. I don't let go of my thoughts. I challenge my thinking. I question my thinking. And then those things let go of me. In other words, if we're paying attention to where we're putting our emotions, our energy, our thinking, our words, our opinions, if we're looking at what's going on back there behind those things, we may discover that we want to make a shift because what's coming forward out of that is not good. It's not working. It isn't making us feel good. It's making us feel worse, more worried, more hopeless, more angry, more victimized, more confused. So if we want to make a shift then, rather than trying to manipulate the world, we're like the woman trying to deal with a spot on the floor when the problem isn't there. Trying to deal with the world and manipulate it into being what we want it to be is not effective. We might get something to shift as long as our willpower is there. But as soon as our attention shifts, that's going to disappear because it isn't really where the energy is coming from. Instead, we have to go within. Now, it's very challenging to think that in order to change the world, we have to change ourselves. The old slogan that we used in Science of Mind for years and years was, change your thinking, change your life. And it's still true. Change your thinking, change your life. If we change our strong opinions, feelings, thoughts, words, in a particular area, about a particular situation or person or thing, it will shift that experience. It might change us. It might change the circumstance. It might move us out of the circumstance. It might move the circumstance away from us. It could do any or all of those things. But it has to start inside of us. And it is an energetic thing as well, emotional and energetic. Einstein said, my creativity is visceral. Visceral. Now, what that means to me is that it wasn't something in his head, it was in his gut. It was feelings. It was emotion. It was curiosity and energy that drove that engine of creativity. that he was experiencing and bringing into being. We think about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, whose holiday is tomorrow. And in the fewer than 13 years, that's all it was, of his leadership of the modern American civil rights movement, during that 13 years, African Americans achieved more genuine progress toward racial equality in America than they had in the previous 350 years. In that 13 years. He's widely regarded as America's preeminent advocate of nonviolence and one of the greatest nonviolent leaders in world history. And at 35, he was the youngest person ever to have won the Nobel Peace Prize. Early in his career, he preached about the need for us to have 3 dimensions in our lives: length, breadth, and height. So length is about our connection to ourselves. Maybe the lifespan is the length. Breadth is about our connection to our community. And height is about our connection to the infinite. If these 3 dimensions are out of whack, he said, then we will be too. And so our connection to ourselves, to our community, and to the infinite, both transcendent and immanent, is important for us to be connected to the whole that we can't really be disconnected from, but to have an awareness of it, to be involved in it. That's where we make those kinds of differences that we're talking about. So the stuff that happens out of the blue, it's really not happening out of the blue at all. It's happening because we practice it. Now, we don't necessarily think of our opinions as a practice, but they are a practice for making something more real. And so our repeated thoughts, our repeated emotions, our repeated opinions, and the feeling that goes with it, the vehemence with which we deliver it or think it or write about it or talk about it, and the repetition is what creates a practice. So it may seem that something has happened out of the blue, when in actual fact it's connected to something that we have unquestioningly maybe believed or turned over in our minds again and again and again and again. This meditating family, they didn't get to be this peaceful and quiet maybe the first time they sat down together. This, to somebody else, might look like, oh my God, how does that family do that? It's like a miracle. But to them, it's not random. To them, it is a repetition that has become a practice that starts to become a habit. It becomes automatic. You notice it when you don't do it. I'm not going to ask you, because I don't want to embarrass you, about how many of you brush your teeth regularly, because I know some people don't. But for those who brush our teeth regularly, what you notice is, as my mother used to say, your teeth feel furry if you haven't brushed them. It just doesn't feel right. You have to stop and go brush your teeth because they're driving you crazy. So when we do something regularly, it becomes a habit in our experience that our system is used to and looks for and expects and relies upon and gains from. And we can choose which things we're going to make into habits. They're the things we repeat. That's how things become a habit or a practice. So when we practice anything, we get better at it. When we practice worry, we become extremely good at worrying. We can do it at the drop of a hat with almost no provocation whatsoever. The good news is, if you're really good at worrying, then you're really good at using creative law. You're just pointed in the wrong direction. Take that same level of repetition and ruminating and commitment and turn it towards something very positive that would take you out of that worry. Turn it there instead. Let the worry become a habit that automatically triggers you to turn in the opposite direction. So you've already got the worry practice, maybe, some of you. Let that become a wake-up call to shift. so that the sequence then becomes a habit, and you start to shift automatically because that's your practice. Does this make sense? Yeah? And so we're attracting then more that's coming to us. We're attracting a different result, a different manifestation or demonstration, we call it. What we experience changes. What shows up around us in our world, things that come to us, opportunities, friendships, things that seem to come out of nowhere randomly. There's something that we have cultivated. I think where we get confused is that oftentimes we think because what we believe operates like a boomerang, and what we put out energetically does return to us, but it rarely comes from the place that we were sending it or thinking it. And so when it comes back around, we sometimes don't recognize it. Maybe there's been a delay. We don't associate it with the originating point where we were so immersed in worry or analyzing or whatever it might have been that triggered that result that came into being. So one of the people that influenced Ernest Holmes, our founder, the most was Thomas Troward, who said to us that principle, meaning the law, the creative law, is not bound by precedent. In other words, no matter what has been created, we have not reached the limit of what can be created. And just because it happened this way to that 600 people doesn't mean it has to happen that way for us. That's why we have outliers, because there are people who, for some reason, trigger a different response than maybe the one that the majority of people have had to something. And that shift looks like a miracle a lot of times. Andrei Tarkovsky said, an artist never works under ideal conditions. If they existed, his work wouldn't exist, for the artist doesn't live in a vacuum. Some sort of pressure must exist. The artist exists because the world is not perfect. Art would be useless if the world were perfect, as man wouldn't look for harmony but would simply live in it. The other thing about that too, though, I think, is that we wouldn't know it was harmony because we would have nothing to compare it to. It simply would be what is. But the artist envisions something. So the artist is either expressing what is so that we can see it more clearly, or what could be or might be, of either to warn us against a worrying future or to propel us toward a more inspiring one. And so we too are artists in the way that we use prayer, in the way that we use affirmative prayer and affirmations and tools to shift our focus, our attention, our consciousness. So the way that it works is that we have to have, for law to do its job, it has to have direction. So here you see a bunch of people with a blueprint for a house, for example. The law has to have direction. It does not operate in a vacuum. It does not create something just because it's a good idea, because the law has no self-awareness at all. Nor does it have any opinion about you or what you're thinking or doing. It's not like the law goes, oh, bad, check that one off. He's doing something bad, or good, check that one off. No, all the law does is mirror. It has no opinion. It doesn't even know it's doing it. All it knows is to do, and that's what it does. So it needs direction, but for us, the downside can kind of be that we provide the blueprint and we don't know that we're doing it a lot of the time. So individually and collectively, we're providing the law with a blueprint because the law never stops. It operates on us all the time, through us, and the only way it can interpret what we want to create is by repetition of belief and emotion. Those two things. That's where our power is. Belief and emotion. And when we turn those into a practice in some particular area, we can make a shift. So why is it that we have a Department of War and not a Department of Peace? You know, we have wars on things. We have wars on drugs. We have wars on terrorism. We have wars on... You know what that does? It makes more of it. It's not our intention to make more of it. We're doing it unconsciously. So, as we hear stories about war, rather than going into, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, ain't it awful? What are we going to do about this? How do we stop them? How do we, instead, there needs to be a place that we come back to that says, what if what drives that could shift? What if what drives some reflection, some echo of that in me were to shift? What if some echo of war, which is my discomfort, disagreement, or animosity toward somebody, my war, what if that would shift? Who is going to fix that for me? Who is going to shift that in me? Surely somebody out there must have a magic wand that can get rid of that. Oh, guess what? It's me. I'm the one with the magic wand, and it's operating in me constantly. It's my feelings and my thoughts that I repeat as a practice. So if that's going to change in the world, it has to change inside first. And we can do that collectively. But until we're doing it also individually, it's harder to do it collectively. As we begin to do it individually, we sort of have a tendency to lift each other up, so it becomes easier for other people to do it. But we got to start somewhere, and so it makes sense to start where we are, with ourselves. Are we relying on something addictively, like television or video games or substances or coffee or whatever, shopping, whatever it might be? If we're relying on it more than is maybe balanced, then maybe that's our war on drugs that we can resolve by beginning to shift dependency somewhat with that thing, that situation, that person, that way of thinking. Are you still with me? Yeah? Okay. So we're providing the blueprint, and the law doesn't wait for us to say, okay, go for it. This is what I want you to create. No, the law takes direction from what we're doing as our direction. It doesn't know we didn't mean for it to create that experience, that issue, that problem. We don't know that. The law doesn't know that. And we're in a disconnect there because we don't realize that we've been sending out directions constantly about this stuff, and we would rather have the law produce something else. Or if it's doing really well and we think it's just luck, we're creating the luck. So if something we put into motion allowed this good, wonderful experience to come into our lives, then maybe it's useful, rather than thinking, I don't want to think about it or I'll jinx it, because I know people do that. Oh my God, don't think too much about it, you might screw it up. We might want to look and say, how have I been about things in my life lately? Is there something, or in the recent past, is there some time that I've been particularly, inspired or positive or helpful or loving, and some of that energy is showing up as a result because I put it out there. And so maybe I want to put some more out there. Now, there are times, even when we're working at that stuff comes up that's negative. And we think, well, now that's not fair. I wasn't doing that. That's old stuff. I already worked on that stuff. That stuff should not be showing up. Anybody in here ever plant a garden? Yeah, ever have weeds? How did they get there? Well, they were already in there, in that soil. They blew in from somebody else's opinions that we thought about, or they were really old family opinions that are still left in the dirt, but they've been dormant for a while. And they crop up, I think, when we are ready to take away another layer. They've been there, but we haven't seen them. But when we're ready, they start to become visible. So it's like, oh, here's some more I can clear out. So rather than feeling victimized by the universe, we can look at it as a clue that we have actually grown to the point where we're ready to do some more with this particular area to make it even better in our lives than what we've managed to bring forward with the work we've done so far. And so we can congratulate ourselves even when negativity shows up by saying, okay, I'm seeing it, I recognize it, I know it has something to do with me, so is there something for me to do about this? Is there something now that I can do? Because the law will take as direction what's floating through, whether we're conscious or unconscious. And we do it as groups, too. You know, if we as a body, as a congregation, without even realizing that other people are doing it, we think, oh, I don't need to take classes, I've taken them all already. I don't need to take that workshop, I've got that handled. Well, if everybody thinks that, suddenly we're doing a class and nobody's there, and we're thinking, but this is valuable, how come nobody's here? And we don't realize that we have created it as a group. How come we don't have somebody, we don't have a whole ton of people going to do this particular volunteer project that's available? Well, because people might be thinking, I'm too tired, I don't have time, I don't have energy, I don't want to do that, I did that kind of service before. And if the majority of the group is thinking that, then that thing falls flat. Now, maybe it needs to fall flat. Maybe it's time to move on from that thing. That might be another message. But you can see how we create a result collectively, even when we don't realize we're holding an idea together. Does that make sense? So this can happen in families, in classes, in school, in our workplace, in our neighborhood, in our nation, in our world, because people are going along with a particular idea, or energetically they haven't stood up to say, no, I don't agree with that, or I'm not in alignment with that. This is what I see instead. So, change your thinking, change your life. And the first step in the process is to take responsibility, not guilt. So don't blame yourself for what's happening. That's not helpful. But take responsibility for the fact that, okay, I'm here, this is showing up in my life, so it's connected to me somehow. That's good news. Now I can do something. If it's showing up in my life, I can do something about it. It isn't being done to me. If it was not appropriate for something energetically in my life, I wouldn't be the one in the middle of it. Somebody else would be. So it's no mistake that I'm here. Instead, what do I want to bring forward now in a different way? What am I focused on? What do I want to create? This is a story that was written by Charles Tart, who is a researcher, a scientist, and has done a lot of work on paranormal psychology. And he was invited many years ago to write a review of Michael Murphy's book, Golf in the Kingdom. Now, Michael Murphy is one of the founders of Esalen. And when Golf in the Kingdom came out in 1971 or something, Charles Tart had not read about it. He didn't know anything about golf. He wasn't a golfer. He didn't really care about golf, but he was a good friend of Michael Murphy's. And so Psychic magazine asked him to review Golf in the Kingdom. And he says, I was hesitant. I didn't really know anything about golf, but Michael Murphy was an old friend, and I knew the book would involve material about psychic matters, which I did know a lot about, so I agreed to review it. It tells the story of Michael Murphy, a young traveler who stumbles upon a mystical golfing expert in Scotland. And he says, even after our friendship, Michael, which had lasted so long, Michael didn't tell me how much of the book was autobiographical and how much of it came to him as a story, whatever that means, only that he was inspired to write it after his time at the Sri Aurobindo ashram in India. So, Charles Tart says, as often happens, other tasks interfered. When the deadline was upon me, I came down with a bad flu. And I spent several days lying around aching and sweating with a fever. I had read the book, but I hadn't thought about what I was going to say in the review. And that last night of the flu, it seemed as if I'd spent most of the night getting lessons from this mystical golf pro, Shiva Irons, the central character of Golf in the Kingdom. Upon waking, I had no idea what the lessons were about, though I think I understood them during the dreams. But I felt as if I'd been working hard all night to learn. My fever was broken, so after breakfast, I got a clipboard and paper and went into my living room to start writing my review. And to my amazement, there was a golf ball lying on the rug in the middle of the floor. I had never owned a golf ball, nor ever seen one in my house. And it wasn't just any golf ball. Printed on it in large letters, it said, Stanford Driving Range. I'd first met Michael Murphy in the fall of 1963 when I went to Stanford on a postdoctoral fellowship. Now, part of my mind looks for normal explanations before thinking about the paranormal, so I tried to find one. I had 2 young children at the time, and I supposed it was possible one of them found the golf ball outside and brought it in. But on that particular day, a golf ball from the Stanford Driving Range? We lived in Davis, California at the time. Stanford was more than 100 miles away. If it had been hit on a powerful drive, it was a very, very long one. I've taken to thinking that sometimes unusual experiences occur simply to rattle our cages, as it were, to remind us that the world is a very big, mysterious, and interesting place. And we shouldn't settle too snugly into our favorite explanations of the way things work. The golf ball gave me a magnificent opening for my review. No one could have anticipated that Golf in the Kingdom would become a bestseller. As of 2012, it had sold over 1 million copies and been translated into 19 languages. And I'm the second person in the world after Michael Murphy to receive instruction from Shiva Irons? There must be more to it than just providing me with a great introduction to a book review. So as to what that more is, well, maybe my cage needed rattling at that time. Why, how did a golf ball show up on his living room rug after he'd spent the night with Shiva Irons, a supposedly fictional, mystical golf pro in Scotland? Now, we could look at this as a coincidence, as just a weird thing, as a miracle, but something was done that brought that dream to Charles Tart. He had been reading the book. In the back of his mind, he knew that he was to write a review. The review start was given to him. It showed up seemingly out of the blue, right? Seemingly randomly, and yet it fit exactly what he was looking for at the time. It was a gift, and the gift was perfectly tailored to him at that moment. Now, when you came in this morning, each one of you received one of these little envelopes, right? Inside this envelope, there are 4 beautiful affirmation cards. These are the result of last year's strategic plan with our leadership council. We decided that because one of our values is community and another one is love, that we wanted to actively do something that expressed those values in the world. And so we decided, how many of you were ever a guest at the restaurant Cafe Gratitude when it existed? Okay, Cafe Gratitude was this wonderful vegan restaurant where every dish on the menu was an affirmation. I am beautiful. I am inspired. Love is all around me. Whatever. And then when the waiter brought it to you, he would say, I am loved. I am inspired. As he handed you your meal. It was, the whole thing was revolving around being grateful. And so I remember years and years ago, one of the things we used to do was take affirmation cards that we had at the various churches and just leave them in random places, like in the doctor's office, in a phone booth, back when there were such things as phone booths, at a newsstand, in your favorite coffee shop. And we decided that we would empower the congregation to seed miracles into the community. These 5 cards are not for you. They are to be left randomly in various places you go in your life for the appropriate person to find. We don't know who that person is, but what we know is that the universe knows who needs this message, and they will find it, even if they find it, in a garbage pile somewhere. It goes out into the world to carry a message of love. And on the back is all of our information. So if they want to know more about us, they can look us up on the web, and they can come to the Sunday service or watch it on TV or on the computer. But the information is on there if they want it, but they don't have to do anything about it. It's just a pass it along. So you've got, you are abundant, you are loved, you are a gift. Peace surrounds you, you are forgiven. Now, can you imagine that there might be people in our community or around you in your world, places that you go, who might need one of those messages? Now, if you know somebody and they're having an experience where you feel like you're strongly guided to give them the card that's appropriate for that, and you have it, then go ahead and give it to them. There's a reason that you got that prompt. But our idea was that we would seed the world generously without expecting anything in return. It's like paying for the toll for the person behind you somewhere, or buying their coffee if you're in the drive-thru at Starbucks, paying for the person who's behind you, or something like that. When you just pass it on without expecting anything back, that's what we're doing. We're taking the energy, the core values, really, the love, the community, the integrity, the spiritual growth that are our core values, and we're sharing them in a practical way in the world. So what do you think? Are you up for this? Are you willing to do this? Yes? It's very easy, and we will have more of them made as you begin to use them up and need more. We'll have more, but right now you're starting with 5, and I wonder if this could be the week that each of us finds a way to give all 5 of these. And it's not fair to leave them all in one place. No. You have to spread them out. So you think you can do that? Yep. All right, great. Let's take this now into prayer to anchor it. So as we turn within, we recognize that the divine presence is one of infinite generosity, wisdom, love, and creativity, and that presence, as it manifests in form, has filled us with these same qualities. We allow them to come forward this week, guiding and directing us to share generously love, forgiveness, inspiration, peace, kindness with the community around us, with no need for acknowledgement or return, simply love, being sent out lovingly with our blessing every place that we leave one of these cards. And so we claim and know now that these cards are imbued with the qualities they are named for, that they carry an energetic gift of love with them everywhere that they go, allowing them to go to exactly the right people at the right places at the right moment, just like Charles Tart's golf ball. We're so deeply grateful to be called to serve in this way and empowered to do it so easily. We know that these very messages are alive in our lives, in us as well. and we welcome and accept them with gratitude. So we release this prayer now into that creative law of mind and spirit which acts upon this collective focus that we share in this moment and brings it into manifestation for lives all around us and ours. We let it go with love and peace, and we simply let it be so. And together we say, and so it is. Please stand and join me for the morning affirmation. As we say together, there is an infinite creative law in the universe. It flows through me and through my life. It has no favorites and no exceptions. It responds without pause or question to the deepest beliefs of my life and manifests them in my experience. I use this blessing of creative power with integrity for the highest good of all concerned. And so it is. You may be seated. As we move into our offering time, I want to remind everyone that if somebody beside you is here for the first time this morning, their presence here with us is their gift. And so if you're new, we're thrilled and delighted that you're here with us. Thank you for being here this morning. We look forward to seeing you often in the future. For those online, if any of you should want to text your offering or in the room this morning, the number is up on the screen. You're welcome to do that. We would greatly receive any offerings that you would like to send to us. And for all of us here this morning, we want to bless the offerings being given today and those that have been given this week with our offering blessing. So take your gift this morning, if you're bringing one physically, and hold it over your heart. Now, if you have given your gift automatically in some other way, that's still a gift. And so you are also the gift. So please put your hands also over your heart. And we're going to have the ushers come forward now as we prepare to receive the offering. And if you're giving your gift with a loved one, you can hold it in your hands together. As we say in unison, this gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Erica, thank you. All right.
The Lord is my shepherd, I have all I need. She makes me lie down in green meadows, beside the still waters she will lead. She restores my soul, she rights my wrongs. She leads me in a path of good things and fills my heart with songs. Even though I walk through a dark and dreary land, there is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I'm in her hands. She sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely, surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever, forever and ever. to our mother and daughter, and to the Holy of Holies, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
So we do, all of us together, on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, accept this offering. And we send it out into the world just like we're sending those affirmation cards to spread love, community, integrity, spiritual growth, and a sense of personal ability to change ourselves and change the world. And so it is. For those of you that were not here last week and didn't hear the announcement, one of our former ministers, the Reverend Dr. Marcia Sutton, made her transition on the 29th of December. There will be a memorial service for her at North Hollywood Church of Religious Science in Southern California, but we don't know the date yet. It will be late February, early March, something like that. So Marcia had a great impact on Golden Gate when she was the minister here. Quite a number of years ago, and we definitely honor her and all that she created and all the work that she did that continues to live in the world. If you are here for the first time, I want to draw your attention to the back table with the flowers. That is the newcomer table, and there's all sorts of info there. You're welcome to pick up anything that's there that you'd like, and I want to especially encourage you to pick up one of the welcome packets. There is a blue welcome card inside, and if you fill that out and leave it back there with Amanda, she will give you a little book. And the little book is called Nourishing Thoughts. That is our thank you to you for coming and being with us today, and also an invitation to you to come back in the future as well. We're delighted you were with us today. Those of you online, if you let us know this was your first Sunday, we'll be happy to mail you one of these if you send us your info. So you can always email the church, GGCSL, Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, ggcsl@ggcsl.org. These are the people that helped put this all together today and make sure that it turned out well. And I do need to say that our morning greeting and ushering team, there's one change in that from what's on the list, and that is that Erica Schaffer stepped in for Ann Langell today. So I didn't get that changed up here because it just happened this morning, but I do want to acknowledge that. So let's give them a hand, everybody, and especially for Leslie Giannetti, who did this fabulous altar this morning. Yes. Now Leslie is going to be reprising, however you say that word. She is going to be repeating the Sacred Grieving workshop that she did and facilitated with Lori Greer some months back. It was a hit, and people wanted a next part to it, or more of the same. And so that's happening on the last Sunday of this month at the Sunrise Center, which is down Tamalpais Drive that way. And it will be from 1 to 3 p.m. You can sign up at the back table, back here, the activities table, and let her know that you're going to be there from 1 to 3 in 2 weeks. Also, we have a service opportunity coming up at the San Francisco Marin Food Bank. We do 2 hours once a month, helping pack food for people in our area, and that food gets taken to distribution centers nearer where the people in need live. So we'd like to help reduce or eliminate hunger in Marin County. And for 2 hours a month, that's a pretty good result if we make an impact on that. You can participate with the group this month. This month is already happening right away. But on February 13th, that Tuesday, is the next one that's coming up. And Ellen Nicosia, who is the head of the Sunday team this morning, so she's in the kitchen right now, she is the person that you need to let her know you want to come. She'll get you on the list. So even if you don't talk to her this morning, you don't know who she is, Her contact info is up on the screen, and she would love to add you to the team for the February service. That's happening on that Tuesday during the day. Also, Leslie, we've got her working on everything now because she's retired, so we have a million ideas of things that Leslie can do. She does a wonderful workshop on our form of prayer, affirmative prayer, which we also call spiritual mind treatment. She did a wonderful workshop on this that people just loved, and she's been asked to repeat it in February. It's going to be on Sunday the 18th from 1 to 3 at our new office and learning center. So if you have not been to the new office on Irwin Street in downtown San Rafael, this is a great way to discover it and also learn more about how to practically do a spiritual mind treatment. And Leslie, would you stand up for a second? Leslie's right over here if you have questions about sacred grieving or this workshop, talk to her. You have flyers that you got with your bulletin this morning for the sacred grieving workshop. And also, you got one for my class that's going to be beginning on February 28th. And I don't know yet if that's going to be online or at the office. It kind of depends on who we have in the class. But it's on Tuesday evenings, 8 Tuesday evenings. Now, this is a very practical class. So there's no textbook for it, but the workbook is extensive. And you will be doing a lot of direct work with your own finances and numbers, not to share any of that with people in the class, but it will be, we'll talk about the general principles and the spiritual principles involved with it. So it's a really powerful class, but it does require your willingness to devote a certain amount of time and depth to it if you want to completely duplicate the nature of spirit in your financial affairs in your life. So I invite you to consider it and know that there's some work involved in this class, and it's worth it, it's meaningful, it's powerful, and it could be challenging. And I welcome the opportunity to work with you on that. So you can, I don't know if we have a sign-up sheet for that yet back at the table, but we will. There is. We ran out of flyers, but the sign-up sheet is at the back, so you can find it back there if you like. That's a 3-hour class, 8 weeks. And remember, if you have not yet joined Meetup, it's really easy. Go to meetup.com, sign up for free. Then just look for Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I mean, if you know that link, you can do it, but all you have to do is put in Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, and it will take you to our page on Meetup, and you'll be able to see all the events that are coming up. And once you've joined Golden Gate, I mean, right there in Meetup, you don't become a member of Golden Gate, you just join that page. You'll get notified of everything coming up, and you can very easily just say attending, and that will let us know how many people to plan for, which is a huge, huge help, believe me. So I invite you to do that if you haven't already done it. And this week, visioning is going to be our meditation on Wednesday evening. If you don't know about visioning, it's a meditative form. It's not as directive as visualization is. This is more receptive, trying to catch the vision for our lives and ourselves in some area. So I invite you to that. No experience necessary at 7:15 on Zoom. And you can find the link on our website calendar. Look under classes and events, that tab. You'll see the calendar, and you can find out more about this meditation there and join us on Zoom. And lastly, remember prayer. So you can put in a prayer request at the table anytime on Sunday. You can request a prayer online from our website under resources, under that tab, or you can go to the practitioner on duty this morning, and that's Deborah, who's over here this morning. And Deborah will take you back to a private spot in the back and do a prayer for you right now today. So if there's something that's heavy on your heart, you don't have to carry it home with you. Sit down with Deborah Paul, and she will help you out with that. And along those lines, I'm going to ask the practitioners to surround the room right now. And for those of you that are remaining in your seats, what I'm going to invite you to do is to uncross your legs and your arms and sit in a receptive position with the intention of allowing this prayer to come in and be a blessing in your life. In this moment, we recognize that there is only one. We live and move and have our being in this one. Every breath, every thought, every heartbeat takes place within the presence of the one. We claim for ourselves this week, then, a deeper awareness of that one presence within and through us. We allow ourselves to move to a higher level with our thinking and our words and our actions, our opinions, to shift our feelings just a notch higher on the scale of the positive, to allow this week to be a transformative moment, a grand rising in our own personal experience. We open our minds and our hearts to this as a possibility that we are seeding in this very moment, collectively accepting that seed in our consciousness, allowing it to be planted to bring forth more and more good. We know the creative law does this work for us, and all we need to do is pay attention to our thoughts and feelings in this alignment. And so with gratitude, we let this prayer go. We let the law do its work now. We simply let it be. And together, we affirm, and so it is. And so it is. Please stand and join us now for the closing blessing and song. We say this also together in unison. And remember to take your little cards out this week and put them to work, all right? I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. And this is an easy one. You don't know it, but
Song
it's
called
easy.
Nothing Can Dim, and taking that light out into the world. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. The lyric is from Dr. Maya Angelou, and we put music to it. And nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Light that shines from within. One more time. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Nothing can dim this light that shines from within. Light that shines from within. Light that shines from within. One more time. Light that shines from within. Peace and blessings.